So you might remember a few weeks back I made a beginner Gymkhana video with this guy, my little brother, and basically we spent a little time in a parking lot covering how to Gymkhana, the basics. Well, it turns out my other brother, this goofy bastard, has been bugging the crap out of me recently, wanting to get some help finding a motorcycle. And I've been trying to talk him out of it ever since he's been talking about it. He's never owned a motorcycle in his life, and unlike my little brother and I, he has probably less than 50 miles, maybe less than 20 on a motorcycle, and I think all of those were, little mini motorcycles, little 50s and 70s. That's kind of what we grew up on, but I don't think any of us rode much on those scooters after we were 10, 11, 12. So basically no experience at all, and it terrifies me to get him on a motorcycle. But he was persistent, and I finally gave in and told him I would help train him how to ride a motorcycle to keep him from getting killed. I don't want to lose my brother. So picking up my little brother's bike so I can ride with my big brother on my bike. Well, actually I'm going to ride my little brother's bike because it's bigger, and I don't trust my older brother. He's got very few miles under his belt, and I want to give him something that he can easily crash and not break, and hopefully not break anything on his body. So that's what the plan is: rescue this thing from my brother's garage who never rides it, and take it to my other brother who's wanting to start riding, and maybe get him going down that road of adventure with me. But now to go make sure it's got some gas in it. So that's how this story begins. My older brother frightening me into believing that he was actually going to go out and buy a motorcycle, and he said it enough times that I figured that I was going to have to do something to try to keep my older brother alive, because he doesn't really know how to ride a motorcycle very well. In fact, he's terrible at it, and I didn't know how bad until I got him out in the parking lot. But that was the goal, is to get him a crash course on motorcycle riding. Now I'm not a MSF instructor or anything like that, but I've trained several hundred people to ride around cones effectively in a parking lot. And if you have an opposing opinion to the legitimacy of riding around cones in a parking lot and what that can actually do for your skills, you obviously have never done it. And I challenge anybody to try these skills in a parking lot. And you don't even have to set you don't have to set cones up in a parking lot. You can just try to make a turn in between two parking spaces in any parking lot. That's basically the drill that you're going to see here shortly. And all those drills build the skills that you need to do this kind of riding on the street. It's just lower speed, but all the skills that we teach in Gymkhana translate into high speed stuff. With some few exceptions. We train you not to use the front brake in the beginning at Gymkhana until you get a little bit faster, and you know what kind of effect that the front brakes has on not only turning, but the geometry of the bike and the traction at low speeds. It's a bit different. Your first day, I'm going to teach you about the circle of trust. It's a 24-foot circle that we lay out in a parking lot just to give you some turning skills, turning, braking, using your controls. It's just an introduction to Gymkhana, and hopefully you'll leave here with some better skills on your motorcycle. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay out a cone circle, and that's all we're going to do. Just keep in mind, you're very vulnerable with your skin. You stall it one time, you're going to go down like Mark did the other day, and he had full gear on, so he was fine. But you have been warned. I tried to get you some gear on, and
well,
you refused. Because
let's do that before we do this kind of technical stuff. I'm thinking you're probably right now. I thought we were just going to ride around a little bit. I didn't know I was going to do technical stuff.
Well, do your riding around. I'll throw the cones out and we can go get your gear.
Sure. I agree. I don't like falling. I don't want to skip myself.
Well, I mean, if you do fall in here,
I just,
if you do fall in here, it's going to be a scrape. It's not going to be a gouge in your knee. If you fall doing your big loop here, 20 miles an hour, you're going to go to the hospital because they're going to have to stretch your freaking open skin.
Brake work.
Well, maybe you should be a little bit more cautious on the front brake and use your back brake. That's what I teach you out here. You don't use the front brake at all in this circle, but you're dragging your rear brake all the way around the circle, giving a little bit of throttle while you're applying brake. If you're going wide of the circle, you give it more brake. I'm
having trouble, Don, even knowing how much throttle to give whenever.
That's going to happen on any new bike that you ride. You could be riding for 40 years.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter which bike I ride, right?
Well, I know, but I mean, I'm telling you that's not unique to you. It's unique to everybody that's riding a bike for the first time, a brand new bike. It turns differently, it brakes differently,
sure.
it accelerates differently. It's a different clutch. Everything's different.
That car is the same way.
Yeah, same thing, exact same thing. But yeah, this is all almost brand new to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just get
And
comfortable,
I got
man.
the turn signal on, going hard. I don't know.
It's tricky.
That turned off.
Oh, okay. So you're burning my headlights, so either crank it up or turn the switch off. What do you want to know? What do you feel uncomfortable with? What can I help you with to get more comfortable?
I'm comfortable with acceleration, clutching, braking, turning, staying above the bike.
Staying on top.
Yeah.
See,
everything's on.
Well, you know what they say, a lot of people say, is shiny side up. Keep the shiny side up. In my case, there's no real shiny side, but
keep the sparkly stuff.
Keep the handlebars up is good, you know.
Yeah, I just need to practice. I thought that was, I didn't know we were doing this.
Well, this is a confined skill, and you can do this no problem. It's just going to take you a little bit of time to, and it took Mark 15 minutes, and he's rode a lot when he was a kid, so.
And probably him getting used to his bike too.
Yeah, I mean it took me a couple of minutes to get inside.
Riding a bike.
Yeah.
I mean, Casey and I went and rode bikes out on the bicycles. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Out in
Same
the
thing.
sand.
Same thing.
I like, damn, I haven't done this in so long, you know.
Right. Well, sand sucks anyway.
Yeah, it
but
does. Pushing through a swamp or something.
Take your time, man. Get comfortable. Get comfortable when you say, I think I'm turning pretty good. I mean, just do those circles. Look, those circles are the equivalent of 2 parking spaces. So if you can turn inside 2 parking spaces, you can turn inside that circle. And that bike is easy.
But look at that.
It's 24 feet wide. So 24 feet from cone to cone, directly across. The same width as a highway. 2 lanes of a standard American highway. It's 24 feet. Everybody that rides a motorcycle should be able to do this drill.
They make a U-turn in the middle of the highway.
Well, it sounds ridiculous, but I've seen so many motorcycles that they call it duck walking because they can't fucking turn.
Yeah. Oh, Don, when you went down this way and turned at the end, I was like, oh, I'm not ready for that yet, man.
Well, it's a good thing we had the light. That's why I waited for the light, because that's a pretty busy intersection. People come up over that hill 70 miles an hour. So take your time. Just do lots of starts and stops. Gear down, put it in neutral before you come to the stop. Got to give it a little bit of gas. So obviously my brother needed some real basic learning how to ride with the clutch, just shifting the clutch. He had a hard time with that. I'm thinking the last motorcycle he rode didn't even have a clutch. You just turn the throttle, then kicked up or down, and that's kind of what we did. Seemed like maybe those bikes had 2 or 3 speeds. They didn't want you going too fast, which is probably the only reason we survived our childhood. we weren't riding fast bikes. Once your front wheel stops spinning in a turn, unless you're an outstanding rider, you're not going to be able to recover. It's called washout. When that front rear goes out, the bike falls.
Front rear.
I'm sorry, the front wheel. When your front wheel washes out, when it loses traction in a turn, you're going around like a rail. If you lose traction on that front tire, you're off the rail. The bike goes flat. So, and there's not really any way you can recover from that.
What were we talking about traction for?
I'm trying to tell you why you don't use the front out here.
Because you to lose the traction.
Because it's so easy to lose traction out here in a turn, especially when you're grabbing a handful of brake. That's why you don't use it out here. If you give too much rear brake out here, it has almost no effect other than you fall down gently because you came to too quick of a stop. It's a like Mark stalled it the other day when he was doing it because he didn't have enough throttle. Wasn't using the clutch, he was using way too much brake, but he was lugging the bike and trying to stop the bike with the rear brake. That's not what we're going to do out here. It's a gentle balance between clutch and brake. If you listen to it, I don't have a tachometer, so I can't say run it at 1100 RPM. So just listen to where the bike is and you'll see what's about right here. You can see I'm really leaned in. You don't have to do anything.
You're going
close.
fast, man.
I'm going real fast because I'm bored with anything else other than fast. It's boring. I'm like, I'll fall asleep. Let me show you how you're supposed to look going through here. Really, you're supposed to be up next to the cones, right next to the cones. And then when you get better, this is full lock right here. It takes a while to get that good, but
that's really good, man.
It takes
There's
a
no
while.
way I could do that right now.
You can do a couple. All you have to do is a couple of.
I can't do it well outside the cones.
You're
right
only
now,
a foot away from the inside.
I know, but I'm just not good. That's why I was trying it, because I want to see just how difficult it's going to be.
So try it on the outside now. That way it doesn't matter. Keep in mind, it doesn't matter if you run over the cones. It does not matter. What matters is if you drop the bike. You don't want to drop the bike. It's embarrassing. You might scratch your pretty little knees and elbows. Just
break a leg.
Practice around the outside with lots of throttle.
Go around the outside.
Lots of throttle, lots of brake, lots of clutch, and you're balancing. You're not really using the throttle at all. You're not moving the throttle. It's held in place. You remember that RPM? I'm gonna tell you where it is, and then you're gonna balance with your clutch and your brake.
Clutch and your brake. That's the part I need more practice on.
Well, this is the perfect way to practice it. Instead of vaguely practicing it out here in turns, this is very specific.
Feel like I'm gonna fall. Yeah.
Well, out here you're gonna scratch your knee.
Yeah.
I tried to talk you into safety gear, but that's okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking before I start trying to do that.
Well, just do the outside first. And just, you know.
You can't tell what gear it's in.
Well, you kick it down, it doesn't kick anymore. If you can't get it into gear, let the throttle out just a little bit and it'll click into gear. More throttle, more throttle. Get your finger off that front brake. Get your finger off the front brake. Don't touch it at all.
I wasn't touching it, I just found it there.
You're not using it out here. There's no reason to touch it. You're doing great. Great.
Now what am I doing with the brake?
Dragging it. You're dragging it to slow yourself down, to balance. More throttle. More throttle. More throttle and more brake. Good, just like that. If you're going wide of the turn, apply more brake. Pull in the clutch a little bit and apply more brake. Perfect, perfect. A little bit more brake. Perfect, you're doing great, man. There's no real reason why you can't come inside the circle now, except I'm in the way.
With that part of the turn, I can't even do this one. Sliding out of it.
Look at that. Wow. More throttle.
Drop a leg. Don't feel comfortable in turns yet. It's not a continuing turn. But you know, I feel like I can get in the hang of it once I get, you know, where I need to have my body positioned over the top of the bike. You know,
Stop. Let's talk about that. Turn it off. If you're going on a right-hand turn, feel free to slip that left cheek off the seat and kind of lean away from the bike. It helps you balance it. Yeah, absolutely. Lots of people ride like that, especially in low speed stuff.
Cramp in my left cheek, as a matter of fact.
Well, get off the bike, stand up. There you go. That's what I do every time I get a cramp, my knees start cramping, ankles, anything, I just stand up on the pegs. Boom, you're done.
That's because I'm doing that turn without...
All right, so bottom line is you did much better than Mark did his first time. He was on a bigger bike. Maybe he turns not as easily.
He's more experienced, so he feels like he
well, that's what
you say.
That's what I'm thinking. He knew better than me. He knew how to do this better than me, and he wasn't listening quite as good as you are, shockingly, because usually he listens pretty well. But he got inside the circle 15 minutes. You went around, I don't know, less than 5. You were inside the circle.
You didn't stay inside the circle.
Well, you got pretty close. Here's the thing that you're not doing. You're looking at those cones right in front of you. You need to be looking out here.
Well, I'm not comfortable enough to look at anything other than...
Well, once you figure out where your tire is going, like you don't want to run over cones, but it's not going to... You ran over a couple already, and it did not damage them. They popped down, then they popped back up. So you're not going to damage the cones. You're not going to wreck your bike by running over the cones. So now, when you see where your wheel is going, your front tire is going, that it's not going over the cones, now you need to start looking, yeah, you need to look where you're going. So instead of looking where your tire is, look over here.
All the time.
Right. Well, that's the one thing that you're not doing.
Yeah.
That I see. Everything else looks good. Your throttle, well, you could maintain your throttle position better, and then balance with your clutch and brake, and that's all you got to do. Look to the right. Or look,
the brake helps me in the turn. By braking it, that allows me to turn time.
Absolutely, that's exactly what you're balancing. You're balancing with your clutch and your brake, and that's all you're doing out here. And don't touch that damn front brake. Well, it's getting a little faster. I think that's genetic. I think Redmonds come with cocky and arrogance from the factory. And I just wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to be his downfall.
That right there is why I want to ride a bike. The feel of the wind in your face.
Since my brother's discomfort for riding inside the circle was very obvious, he felt like he needed to spend another hour or two riding around the parking lot, braking and accelerating and switching gears, but I was quite sure that I needed to get him inside the circle. So to ease his reluctance and discomfort, I decided to get the bike out and do a few loops, hoping that he would come in and follow me, and I was able to coax him inside the circle after a few turns. think once you see somebody doing it, it starts making a little bit more sense once you get the basics. So once he started following me around the outside, I tried to get him to come in, and eventually he did. He followed me inside, and it seems like there's some kind of an optical effect to see somebody in front of you turning. It helps you with the direction and the momentum and all the things that you need. And he eventually rolled inside the circle behind me, and that kind of led to a little bit more confidence in his ability to get inside there by himself. It's an uncomfortable, cramped thing to do in a circle this small. Not very many people can do this, and to get in there behind somebody else and do it, it's quite uncomfortable. And just the fact that anybody comes in behind you, it says a lot about their willingness to learn something new, because it's a really weird thing to be going so slow that you're right on the edge of teetering and falling down, and nobody that rides a motorcycle wants to do this. Number one, it's embarrassing. Number two, you can scratch your precious little shiny bike. Number three, you can get hurt. So nobody wants to do that, especially when you're riding in shorts. You can scratch up your dainty little knees if you fall off your bike. But anyway, the drill that I was trying to get him to do, follow me inside the circle, actually worked. He actually got inside there and realized it wasn't as hard as he thought it was. It's still hard, but it's just those muscles that you don't use, they don't get used. You don't know how to use them very well. You can't pick up a 100-pound weight if you don't pick up a 50-pound weight ever. So, but he eventually mastered it and started moving forward, which I was very happy with. There you go. Dude, that's the essence. You just discovered the essence. That is it. You popped your bike back up with your clutch. That's what you got to do. Two more times. Too tight. Too tight. You're too tight too. Keith, your front wheel needs to be at the cones. Just right here. You're doing this. You're what? No, you're doing fine. Everything's fine. Just a little bit of technique. Stay on the cones. No, you're going straight across. Don't go straight across. Stay on the cones. Stop, Keith. Stop. Stop.
Stay on the cones. I got it. I'm just having trouble getting there.
When you come in, go immediately back out and stay right on the cones.
I'm having trouble getting back there.
Slow it down. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Stay on the cones. So, again, come inside and immediately, once you make that left turn, go right back out and put your wheel on these cones and go around the cones.
I was just having trouble even doing that.
Well,
yeah,
but I mean, it's a mental thing. You're inside the box and you're going straight across. That's what everybody does. That's the mistake that everybody does.
That's not what I'm trying to do.
Well, whether
exactly what you tell me.
well, whether it's intentional or not, but not just that. More throttle, more clutch, more brake. Yeah. You got it. You did it.
I got the throttle right,
dude.
You over clutch it.
Well, the clutch is fine. You're not going to over clutch it.
That's what I did until I'm like holding on it. It's going nowhere, and that's when I'm stalling.
You're doing a whole lot better than you realize. You're doing a whole lot better than you realize. And oh, turn your head.
Oh yeah.
Right here, because you're really focused right here. But
when I get in the circle.
Yeah, when you get in the circle, turn your head.
I need to go around it a few times?
Yeah, that's what you do. Try to keep your, yeah, there you go, perfect. Perfect. Turn your head a little bit. There you go. Very good.
Graduate. Fucking graduate.
He graduated. I'm so proud of my boy.
Trust me that fast. That's it, man.
So, the circle of trust. That's a drill that just shows you have just the basic skills to do Gymkhana. That's all that shows you. So in other words, you can get out here now and practice some really tight stuff. You could do figure eights now, which is basically two of those circles that are connected. And that's what you're doing. You're alternating your turns, which is a little bit closer to...
You got to go around twice and then...
No. I mean, you can, but really it's one circle and then go the other direction from the other circle and then go back. So you're alternating circles.
I want to get to where I can do the full lock like you're doing.
That takes a lot of practice, man. And not just that, a lot of confidence, because, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's just a progression. So now you've graduated. You can run Gymkhana now because you've got the basic skills.
Gymkhana.
But now...
Gymkhana? Or
Gymkhana. Like gymnasium, Gymkhana. It's just skill building. So I think you were fairly confident when you showed up here, and then I took all your confidence away in that parking lot.
Dude, I was confident the whole time that I could get there if you didn't push me too fast.
No, I'm talking about just riding in general. I think.
No, I had no confidence, dude.
Okay.
That I could just hop on a bike and go. No.
Okay.
I told you. I started the conversation with.
Well,
I hadn't ridden in.
I know all
years,
about your
that,
history.
It was, 5 years earlier than that. So.
I bet you've got less than 50 miles on a bike, period, in your whole life.
Yeah.
So that's a big issue, but I feel confident that at least you're not going to exceed your limits. I don't think. Huh? What do you think so far?
Having fun, man.
Good.
I'm gonna get my own bike. Get used to it.
Yeah. So after less than an hour in a parking lot, I felt confident enough to take my brother for a nice twisty road ride. Went down to the river where there are lots and lots of twisty roads, lots of high-speed sweeping turns, one of which he actually ended up blowing the turn and running wide into an oncoming traffic lane. Luckily there was no cars there. We picked a good day to go riding. Obviously nobody was out on most of the roads that we were riding, but we also wound up on one of the twistiest roads in Alabama, a place called Smith Camp Road. Not only is it twisty, but there are blind turns over hills. It's just fantastic. A little bit scary for a new rider, and I warned him before we went down this road. It's very twisty, and they're blind turns, and just expect every hill you go over that there's a turn to the right or left just after the hill. And it terrified him, but I rode in front the first time, and the first time through, and then followed him out the way out. So, but overall, great day riding and good hanging out with my brother and riding, and hopefully maybe all three of us can get on bikes soon and go on an adventure without crashing, which is always a good thing to not do.